It is said that a prophet is never recognized in his own hometown. So it is with artists who don't get appreciated much where they live. The 5 musicians of MX80 Sound all live and work in Bloomington, but their music is almost unknown in Bloomington. Meanwhile, their first record, Heart Attack, was released in Great Britain in the latter part of 1977 and is selling well already, and it's soon to be distributed to the continent and possibly in the future to Japan and around the world. It is not inconceivable that they'll be well known indeed everywhere else except in their own hometown, Bloomington, where, for now, they play in the basement.
1, 2, 3, 4. Hey, let me tell you, are you ready? Hey, are you ready? Are you ready? Let me tell you something. I'm on my way. Be the star of a real big day. I get some mail and some telephone calls. Then we'll get together at the TV hall. Now, are you ready? You ready, baby? Yeah, are you ready? You ready? Don't panic, girl, you're not sound great. I'm just like some people. That's it all, Hey, let me ask you again. Are you ready? For the 80s, it's 2 years away. Are you ready? Don't panic, I know it's gonna change. Let your feet go back. Just relax and get ready. I hope you're ready, team. Just roster. Get roster. Here comes the aliens. Are you ready? Next time you have 1989.
I'm talking with Bloomington's own MX80 Sound, soon to be the world's own MX80 Sound. And you ought to meet them. Jeffrey Armour,
Hello.
Bruce Anderson,
I have lint on my pants.
Dave Mahoney, Dale Sophiea, and Rich Stim.
And Archie.
And Archie.
And Archie.
It seems interesting to me that in reading some of the reviews of your record Heart Attack, is almost every critic who's written about you has compared you to something completely different from the others. I mean, something completely extreme opposite sometimes. Some will compare you to Ornette Coleman or Sun Ra, and some will compare you to the Sex Pistols, and some will compare you to old surfing bands, and some will say you're completely unique, which it would seem that's the case. Are all those elements in there?
They're all right. We're a combination of everything.
Well, we talked once about this. You think of it as comedy rock too. Is that sort of rock like any other kind of rock?
No, I just meant, and you were referring to, they had people thinking there was a trend in comedy rock, but we're not really comedy rock, but we use comedy sometimes just to fill in the space there. Are we on? Sorry.
You're not going to spit up blood or anything.
No.
Well, speaking of that sort of thing, the one of the reviews in Britain so far, the record Heart Attack, was that this is the only band in the world that Johnny Rotten of the Sex Pistols and Ornette Coleman could jam with simultaneously. Could you envision that?
Sure. I mean, I can think up all sorts of weird combinations that would work. I mean, I'd love to see Andrew Cyrille play with the Blue Oyster Cult, you know. I think if you have, you know, the vision, the concept, you can put all those things together. A lot of the rhythm section is effusive in the way jazz is, but they're all coming from sort of a rock attitude. I think the main difference between us and a lot of bands, like new wave bands, is just that our rhythm section is just wide open. It's not really rock and roll, but the band is more of a rock and roll band than anything else.
Well, it seems interesting to me that, except for Bruce, you're not individually virtuosi, but you're virtuosos as an ensemble.
That's because we're team players.
Right. That Dave, you often are playing a more stricter rhythmic patterns, whereas Jeff, you're more playing colors and accents and things. Is that all intentional, or is that how it evolved?
It's just what's happened after we've practiced for, you know, several years together.
All right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Where I live, the biggest kid. Everybody seems to be into product business. Where the ones who make the bacon, where the ones who ship the stamp, where the ones who report, and they report. You know, they try to tell us what to put in our...
What's interesting, you were talking about foundation, and the foundation often changes within the song, and in the more formal parts of the song, the rhythms change drastically at times, and from someone standing outside, it seems awesome that all at once these things happen without being a part of the music. It seems amazing to me sometimes how complicated the music is, and yet it's always very simple.
Part of that is just that the band's sound is very thick. It's real dense. There's a lot happening on all these different tone levels at the same time. So when the change does happen, the whole energy force shifts like at one time, and you hear it more drastically, I think, perhaps because of the density of the sound.
In the first stage of success now that you have a record out in Britain that's sold several thousand copies already?
I'm in the first stage of my Dale Carnegie course right now. on how to market anything. Now, yeah, we're in the first stage of commercial acceptance, you know what I mean? You can't get taken seriously unless you have an album put out by a major company, but you can't usually get an album put out by a major company unless you already have an album out. So it's like catch-22, but I mean, that's why you get a manager or somebody in New York or something. But we just happen to line things up in one way or another, and now we have a record by a major company, so other major companies think, well, this is a real group and everything.
Except that there's this odd situation of you living and working and rehearsing and playing in Bloomington, and your record is out in Britain. It's going to be now distributed on the continent, and it's not released in America, where your homeland.
That's true, I guess. But I mean, Charles Bronson was a big success in Italy, and Clint Eastwood made it, in France, but it took them years later, and they came here. I mean, same with Bruce Lee. I mean, you don't have to make it where you live anymore. It's the modern world. You can live someplace and make it somewhere else. The only difference between us now is that we don't really have enough financing to completely split from our day jobs. We're getting money in, but the way records work is you don't really make a lot until you sell a real lot. We don't sell a real lot right yet. Builds up, hopefully.
Well, you're being distributed in Britain by Island, which is one of their biggest record companies, and they're going to bring you over there sometime this year,
Yeah,
right?
we also distribute in other countries just for some curiosity, but it doesn't mean anymore. Financially, it doesn't really mean that much more right yet.
Well, do you envision a scenario about what's going to happen from say now over the next couple of years?
Mo Austin's going to walk in that door right there. He's going to say, Rich, here's a check. Fill it out. I want this group to come out to Burbank and record tomorrow. But I don't know what the reality is. You have to ask those guys. I'm not into reality.
I get real antsy sometimes because the band doesn't have an outlet in Bloomington. We're sort of checkmated as far as doing gigs. It's just in this area, just by natural selection, it seems. But
well, if you want to make it, and you have to almost be a dance band to play bars and things, and you don't want to play that anyway.
Well, it just wouldn't work. I mean, we might get a job at every establishment in Bloomington once.
MX80 Sound. Today the world, tomorrow Bloomington. I'm Michael Bourne.